Phil. Phil is a global expert in business agility. He has more than 15 years of hands-on experience in this field, just leading large-scale agility transformation at companies such Suncorp, IBM, Honeywell's, Aerospace, World Fuel Service, many others.
Thank you, Fabio. Buongiorno, Italy, and ciao, everyone. I'm going to try and keep this as dynamic as possible. And I'm going to start by talking about what is growth and profitability in relation to business agility and how business agility actually helps this to change and to grow. Today, I'm just going through 4 portions. The first one is actually digging into the why. Why is any sort of change important? And what are the drivers behind any company? Once you understand the drivers, you know what to change. And then you know how to change it. So we go from the why to the what and to the how at the end. We're going to start with the why. And I've walked into so many companies, large and small, and the first thing they tell me is, yeah, we want a business agility because the CEO wants it, or because the boss said so, or because my competitors are doing this. But this is not truly the why. This is not the intent. This is not the reason. What I try to do very often is to peel the onion, to open it and find out what is underneath it. Why do these people really want it? And at the heart of most of this is the shareholders of the company want growth and profits. They want profitability. And even if you're in a not-for-profit or a governmental organization, growth is important in terms of number of customers that you serve, and profits, not just in terms of, let's say, having a lot of profit, but not-for-profits also need to cover their costs. And in today's world, with everything changing and with COVID, and we all know, we were just laughing, Fabio and myself, a little while ago, how we're locked up for the last year. And I've been fortunately a part of a beautiful startup that we got going in November 2019. It's called Zing. And we've had to grow and make profits through the pandemic, with total uncertainty about everything. So what was important and what is important? And what I'm going to share with you now is not just for big companies. It matters for small companies. In our startup, we live what I'm going to show you. And it's the same model that the IBMs and the Honeywells use as well, on a different scale, but it's the same principles. So what are these? So if you look at growth and profitability and you go down and say, what is growth? What does it really mean? It means happy customers. And you will only get happy customers if you have the right product, the right functionality, the right features. You have the right price. You can have a fantastic product and you charge $2,000 a month, forget it. It has to be on time. It should not be 1 year later. It has to be releasing features every 2 weeks. Time to market. And it has to be the right quality. It doesn't have to be gold-plated, but it has to be the right quality. What about the cost side? The profitability is the difference between your revenue, which you're getting in, and the cost. So you've only got 2 lines to play with. You can increase your revenue and reduce your cost. And there is your profitability. So how do you affect this bottom line? How do you move it down? Growth is about the top line. The bottom line goes down if you have the right people. In today's world, everything has to be digital. So you have to operate digitally. Right technology, right processes. And digital transformations are not so much about the technology. We all know that. It's about the people, the processes, and the structure of your organization, all put together with technology, is what gives you that winning end. And I call it the 4 E's. These are the 4 E's that you must get right to get growth and profitability. Effective strategy. If you don't have that, you cannot get the right price, the right product, the right people, the right process, nothing. And then you have to have happy, engaged talent. Without that, nothing else will work. You have to have efficient way of working. So that's processes, tools, techniques, structures, practices, everything. That's just the wow, the way of working. And you have to have enduring quality. And it's not just quality for 1 week. Your quality has to be there all the time. So these are the 4 E's that every company has to focus on if they want to grow and if they want to be profitable. Let's put all those 4 E's down here and let's look at them. You've got talent, strategy, efficient. But there is something missing at the heart of it, which is common to all 4 pieces. And that one thing is culture. If you don't have the right culture, you will not get the right people. You will not get engaged people. You get demoralized people. If you don't have engaged people, forget about efficient processes, forget about digital transformation, quality will be poor, and your strategy will not be clear. Because you need great leaders. So engaged talent means great leaders and great people. And they only come for culture. And what is culture? Culture is not about how much you pay somebody or what you say your culture is. Your culture is how you operate, how you live, and how you behave on a daily basis. And it has 2 parts. It's got a set of values and a set of principles. And we're going to go into that. Before we get into that, you say, okay, I've got a problem with strategy. Every company that I've dealt with has 1 or 2 pain points that are visible. You will never see all the points. You will see one. Oh, I have a quality problem. Somebody tells me I have a time to market problem. Somebody else says to me, we need to reduce cost. Another person tells me, our people are not engaged. Can you do business agility for that? It doesn't matter which single pain you see. All these are so tightly linked together that you cannot separate them when you're solving it. You cannot solve strategy or cost or process if you don't address the other 3. So let's start at the bottom. So what are your options? Let's look at if you're the manager, leader, program manager, change manager, CEO, CTO of a company, what can you do to solve these problems? You have 2 routes. Number 1, you can solve each problem by itself. So you can start an initiative to improve your process. Then you can start an initiative to hire great people, etc., etc. Or you can adopt a process. You can say, we're going to do lean. We're going to do design thinking. We're going to do agile. We're going to do Six Sigma, whichever one. So what has happened in the last 5 years? All these have come together, these approaches, under one umbrella called business agility. And that is because the values of all of them are exactly the same, and they bring in slightly different principles. Let's look at what business agility has done to pull these principles together and then put it in a certain way. So we're going to dive in a little bit into business agility now. So business agility, in order to deliver growth and profitability, really has 3 things. It has a set of values which are at the bottom. Without these values, nothing can operate. You will not get principles and practices. After that, there's a set of principles that should be in your mind. It's a mindset. You have to believe these principles. And when I say you have to believe these principles, I mean the leadership has to believe these principles, because there is proof out there, but we all know that you can show somebody all the proof you want, but if they don't have belief, then nothing happens. And finally, agility offers a set of practices that helps you live these values and principles. So if a leadership team actually believes in these principles and values and says, we want to do it, you can actually start by using the practices to change your behaviors and thus live the principles and values. Now, this is something that other ways of working never had. They never had practices. What they had was a blueprint, they had a framework, they had a diagram, they had a process, but practices were things that were missing. So this is something that over the 5 years, based on a historic set of practices, there are over 50 or 60, but I'm going to point out just 15 that can make it work. We're going to cover the values and principles now. You have 4 values. That's it. At the heart of this is respect. If you do not respect human beings, and there's bullying, there's discrimination, there's authoritative working, you will not get the best out of people. And I don't need to be here telling you all that. I'm sure you all know that already. Respect is number 1. Transparency is number 2. So this means all about being able to be open and sharing in an honest way the information and the knowledge that we have. Now, of course, there is always some things that are confidential. We have to keep that confidentiality there, but we have to be transparent. Now, this one, fairness, is such an important one. It has not been raised as an important value. But what I have seen in my last year, almost 20 years now of doing agility, is this is one of the hidden values that destroy great teams. If people feel that they are not being treated fairly, then immediately they disengage. And once you're disengaged, that's the end of it. And last, you have to have the mother of all values, which is courage. Courage to speak up, courage to challenge, courage to talk, courage to share, courage to say you're wrong, courage to be corrected, etc. Now, a lot of people say, hey, but wait a minute, where is trust, Philip? Isn't trust an important value of agility? I don't think it's a value. I think it's an outcome. I think respect, transparency, fairness, and courage generate trust. If you have these 4 values, you automatically improve trust. And trust is one of the most important things for great teamwork. We talked about it, 4 values. Now, let's talk about these principles. This is the mindset. And I've broken them down into 2 lots. We have 4 people principles and 4 process principles. The 4 people principles are actually quite simple. Look at the first one, the talent bar. I can't tell you how many companies I've been to that say they want to do agility. They start the agile process. And then I say, what is your recruitment process? Well, how do you recruit? How do you set a high bar? No, we just have an interview. Do you have a set way? No, we just have a chat. Maybe we have 2 interviews. But look at the great companies. Look at the Googles, the Amazons, the Spotify's Hallmark cards. There are 19 interview steps. And they have the best people there, not for the money. Look at Amazon. They don't pay the best in the world, but they have great people, great leaders. And that's because the talent bar is high. That's very important. You can have the best processes, the best principles, the best way of working, the best agility, and you have poor people in terms of capability, you're not going very far. Now, the structure. You have to have small cross-functional teams, not the old hierarchies of all the business analysts with the manager and all the developers with the manager and all the marketing people with one. You have to have small cross-functional teams that work together with a very thin layer of management as possible. And I can talk about that later as to how much should it be, etc. You need a culture of safety. And the Google Aristotle project has proven this, that if you don't have a safe environment, that means it's safe to challenge, it's safe to talk, it's safe to ask questions without being fired, it's safe to give your ideas to somebody, it's safe to say this is not right, and you won't be fired. Then you've got the wisdom of the crowd. And lastly, you have to have a leadership style that is open to all this, to the values and principles. It has to be a more servant leadership style than an authoritative style. If you have a dictator, an authoritative person at the top, forget it. The values and principles will not come out. So 4 people principles. Now let's look at the 4 process principles. The first one is you have clarity of purpose. Now this may seem as something strange. I do a little test with almost every company that I go into at the C-suite or at the department level or one thing. I sit all the managers down, or the CEO and CIO and CFO down. I give them a piece of paper and I say, please write down, each of you, the top 3 things that you think the company should be focusing on in the next 3 months. Just the top 3 things. Do you think I get the same list from every one of those leaders? Never. And this can be one of the biggest companies in the world to one of the smaller companies in the world. It's the same. There is no clarity. So imagine if you have 4 powerful horses pulling your carriage, and each of them is pulling in a different way. Where do you think your carriage is going? Most probably nowhere. Or it's a lot of waste. And this is number 1 principle in getting the others right. Because if you don't have this right, you can't get flow and collaboration and improvement. Now let's go to design for flow. Design for flow is all about keeping the principle of pull versus push. People pull work from a prioritized funnel of work, working on maybe 1, 2, 3 things at a time, not more. So they've got a work in progress limit, and they deliver value fast. That's how you have to design your processes. And if you can design that together with your org structure, because a process by itself is nothing, the process always sits in an org structure. So what you saw on the previous slide plus this is vital. You have org structure plus process. Now, the next one is collaboration. You'll be surprised how different collaboration is from communication. Most managers and leaders are good about communication. We sent out the strategy pack. That is not collaboration. That is communication. It's most probably one way, up or down. Collaboration is when you actually talk together and help develop something together. Fundamental difference, fundamental importance of all great companies. They're highly collaborative. And lastly, forget about best practice. Best practice is the death of all companies. You have to have a mindset of continuous improvement. The problem with best practice is both the 2 words. The first word is best. What is better than best? Oh, there's nothing better than best. We're already best. So you can't go anywhere. But if you train that no matter what your standard is, you only want to get better. You only want to get better. That is the mindset that the Toyota production system, lean, agility is all based on. It's based on feedback and continuous improvement. And for these, you need the right values. This is great. So what business agility gives us are these 4 values, without which you're not going anywhere. And then you have these 8 principles, 4 people principles, 4 process principles. And what I call 15 agility practices. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of all these practices. I'm just going to show it to you, just in the interest of time. But by using these practices, you can actually change the behavior. So here they are. Now, very often, we know these practices on the right. These are Scrum practices. So if you're used to Scrum and Kanban and everything, you know, the stand-up and retrospective and the showcase or the playback, the backlog grooming, iteration planning, all pretty simple. But that's not where the difference is. You can do all this every day, and if you don't use these and you don't change the clarity of purpose, you will have a problem. So I use another additional set of practices, ABCD strategy, how you build out a strategy collaboratively, how do you cascade your OKRs, I call it Oscars, because you're cascading your strategy down. How do you measure the org structure, the bureaucracy mass index? How do you structure your organization using the BMI standards? How do you solve problems using a problem smash practice, as opposed to discussing in meetings, I call them goulash meetings, where you just go into the meeting and then you talk a little bit about strategy, 2 words about this problem, 3 words about that problem. Then there's a HR issue. Then you talk a little bit about something you need to do tomorrow, and you come out. That is not how we solve problems. You don't solve a problem in a meeting. And there's a little practice for that. This takes 20 minutes and it works like magic. Same thing for the wall of expectation, portfolio walls, your governance gates. Defining your governance gates is so important. Release planning, okay, this thing people know. Social contracts, also important, but it's something that people use. And finally, the walls of work. An important suite, if you want to tackle all the aspects of strategy, way of working, engage people, and enduring, you have to address all those aspects. You can use the practices if you want. For example, in our small startup, we just live it. We don't do all the practices. Yeah, do we do the stand-ups? Yes. Retrospectives, showcases, yes. This we do literally on a daily basis in Zing. We did the strategy. We meet every few months. Because we're just a small company of 20 people, the key results are cascaded literally every second week through. We've got a very low BMI score, a bureaucracy mass index, etc., etc. So it doesn't matter, small company or big company, you can do this. The same principles matter. Shareholders want growth and profitability. Business agility delivers that. And it delivers that by using these 4 things to give you happy customers, right product, right price, right time. This is what determines your strategy. This helps you deliver this. I love Richard Branson when he says, you can forget about happy customers. Everybody talks about customer-focused design and customer-focused this and that. How can you focus on customers if your staff are not happy? So if you want customer focus, you need to first focus on employee focus. Employee focus will give you customer focus by default if you have got effective strategy and an efficient wow, and focus on quality. So you have to look at all these closely connected. And that is profitability. All very good, fantastic. We've got all this. How do you change? But there are 4 things you need for change adoption. The first one, and the first most important one, is you have to decide as a leadership team, what is the problem you're trying to fix? Why are you doing this? Not because the boss said so, or McKinsey report said so. Why are you really doing this? You have to sit together as a leadership team and decide. The difficult part in this decision, and I've had so many leaders say to me, can you prove to me that this method will work? Oh, nobody can prove to you. There's enough of material nowadays. We're almost maybe 5 to 7 years into business agility. You just go on to most of the websites. There's a Business Agility Institute, and you will find 100 articles and use case stories proving every point that I just made. Will you believe it? Of course not, because we are different. Or you don't understand, this will not work here. There's always some reason. And that is why you have to decide whether you want to follow this. The other important point about the decision is you can't cherry pick. Yeah. So you can't say, I want to be a marathon runner, but I'm not going to worry about my diet. And I'm not going to worry about, watching my weight or staying fit, but I'm going to buy good running shoes and I'm going to go for a 10 minutes run every day. Hello, that's not going to help. So I find a lot of companies take the approach of the decision is too hard. So what they do is they say, oh, we'll just do stand-ups and retrospectives and we'll do a pilot. Pilot is not going to get you anything. There's enough of pilots done all over the world. You just have to read it. So decide. If you don't decide, don't start, please, because you're wasting your money. Once the leadership decides, normally there will be some people who detract, who don't agree and who don't like it. And I had one company, it's quite interesting. They told me, we want you to help us go agile, but the head of testing does not agree. So can we just do it without him? Great. What do you think that went? No way. So you now have to commit. So that means the decision made by the senior leadership has to be committed by even those who don't agree. That is very big. Now, you cannot do that with communication. You can only do that with collaboration. You have to have workshops. You have to talk about the ADKAR process, ADKAR, awareness, desire, knowledge. If you don't get those first three parts of change management right, it's not going anywhere. Get the commitment of your senior leadership and your middle leadership there. And this has to be very firm, because at some point you have to say, I know you disagree, but you have to agree to commit, even if you disagree. Third point, I've seen many companies who commit, they decide, and then they don't support. I've got one major bank I worked with. This bank all committed, even the CEO committed to going agile. We want to go deliver faster. Okay, fine. Guess what their budget was? One transformation leader, part-time, who has another job. That's it. That was their investment. It's not going to happen. The poor guy had, no time, and he was set up to fail. So you cannot set people up to fail. So you have to put your money where your mouth is. Transformations take time. It's a journey, as you can see down below. You have to put training in. You have to put awareness campaigns in. You run it as a change management process. And lastly, you have to measure, measure, measure. You have to measure the before and thereby see how you're improving. Now, you will always go through what I call the trough of disillusionment. So let us say you start by delivering 10 features a month, just an example. And you start your agility program. What do you think the result will be after 2 months? Will it be 10 features a month? Or will it be 8 features a month? Or will it be 15 features a month? It most probably will be 8 features a month. You will get a dip. Now, at that point, you go, oh my God, we're not doing what, this is not working. Stop the program, stop the program. Now, when you stop the program, guess what your total features per month is going to remain at? It's going to remain at 8 features a month. So don't give up. You have to persevere. You have to measure, and then you will see the improvement. Now, as the improvement comes, you celebrate. You don't have to do a big bang. You can do it in a small way, but the commitment and the decision has to be for the whole, whatever your department, your unit, your company, whatever area you choose. And you can implement it in a small, shared, incremental way. And that will give you the success, the growth, and the profitability using the basis of business agility.